All right, how's it going, everyone? So today we are going to talk about theories of emotion. We are going to look at how we as human beings process our emotions. To start, we'll be looking at 4 different theories that look at how it is that a person, what is the step-by-step process of what a person's emotional state looks like when we see something or sense some sort of stimulus. How is it that we get to whatever emotion that we feel? Let's start with the first theory. This is known as the James Lange theory. And so basically the James Lange theory postulates this. As you can see from this picture, this should help you out a little bit. Okay, so first things first is we see the stimulus, okay, and that stimulus is a bear. Okay, so immediately what is going to happen after that is we are going to get some physical response. Our body is going to react physically. So our heart is going to start beating really fast. We're going to start to sweat. We're going to shake. Our palms are going to get sweaty, whatever. And so these physical reactions are then going to be followed by the fear itself, the feeling of that fear, whatever that emotion is. And so that, feeling of fear or terror or what have you. So the James Lange theory, stimulus first, followed by physical reaction, and then finally you have your actual emotion. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking first time off like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. I don't feel like I have a physical feeling before I sense an emotion. But this is strongly emphasized by people who are paralyzed. So people who are paralyzed have described a lot of their emotions very differently as they were before. So for a lot of us, when we get angry, it's kind of like this hot feeling, like our entire body kind of, starts to warm up. You might perspire a little bit, and you got a lot of this like pent up energy. But for someone who's paralyzed, that manifests very differently, and many people will describe it as a cold anger, a seething, as their body doesn't respond in the same manner, and so it's very different. And so the James Lange theory is looking at is really kind of hinging on that idea of us having a physical reaction before interpreting that emotion. So next we have the Cannon-Bard theory. And so the Cannon-Bard theory is different from the James Lange theory, as in the physical reaction and the emotion happen at the same time. So you can kind of see that in this diagram. You have the 2 parts. You have the seeing of the bear, and then afterwards you have both your physical reaction and your emotional reaction happens at the same time. And I think this often is more in line with what people express emotion as or feel emotion as, where the physical reaction and the actual emotion happen in the same space, happen at the same time. So next we have the Schachter 2-factor or the Schachter-Singer theory. So the Schachter 2-factor, Schachter-Singer theory is looking at appraisal. It's going to be the big keynote difference. So it looks very much like the James Lange theory, stimulus, physical reaction, but then we have this appraisal piece before we get to the emotion. And the appraisal piece is a recognition of what is going on. So once you have your physical reaction, heart starts beating, palms are sweating, sweating, you're hot, whatever. Those physical reactions can be similar in lots of different situations. So you could see a bear, as we described before. But those physical reactions are often probably the same if you see someone who's really, really attractive. Your heart starts beating a little bit faster. You might sweat a little bit. You might get a little hot. You might start to tremble slightly. Okay, and so what the Schachter-Singer theory is looking at is it's like, hey, there has to be some sort of recognition of what is going on. There has to be some sort of appraisal of, oh, that's a bear. I know from, watching television or something, or, reading books, watching television, that those are dangerous. Or, oh, that person is really attractive. Why are they so attractive? Well, they have these, there are aspects of them that I find, really attractive, or what have you. So it is this recognition of the situation that is going on. It is this appraisal, this understanding of the situation. And once we have that appraisal, then we have the specific emotion. That's the Schachter two-factor, Schachter-Singer theory. So last of these theories, we have the Lazarus cognitive mediational theory, also just known as the appraisal theory. And basically what this is what it's saying here is you have your stimulus, then you have your appraisal. So right after we see the thing, we are checking, okay, what is this doing? Like, what is going on here? And then you have, just like Cannon-Bard, your emotion and your physical reaction happening at the same time. So there's Lazarus's cognitive mediational theory. Okay, so got to talk about evolutionary theory along with this. So the evolutionary theory is, okay, once again, why is it that we feel emotions? We feel those emotions because our ability to understand our own emotions, our ability to understand other people's emotions is something that is very important for us to survive. There you go. That's it. Our ability to recognize when someone else is angry with us and might want to, stab us in the face. That's pretty important to be able to recognize those ideas. That's all evolutionary theory is looking at. Okay, so next we have Joseph LeDoux. So Joseph LeDoux looked at emotions as a cognitive process that relied on higher order states. So all that is saying is that our cerebral cortex is heavily involved in our emotions, and that wasn't always believed to be the case. So, our understanding was that the subcortical areas in the limbic system were in charge of our emotions, but what Joseph LeDoux showed us is that there was a lot of areas in the cerebral cortex that play a major role in how we experience emotions and whatnot. So just a name that you need to remember, and just recognizing that your emotions are also processed in the cerebral cortex. Okay, so Paul Ekman. Paul Ekman was a psychologist who was interested in how people from around the world experienced emotions. And one of the things that he began to recognize is that it didn't matter where you went in the world, there were certain emotions that everyone expressed in a facial manner the exact same. So we have lots of different ways of expressing by saying how we feel. We have lots of different like hand gestures, but what Paul Ekman found was that there were 7 very specific facial features that it didn't matter where you went in the world, you would see, you could recognize it on anyone's face. And so he found that even blind people were able to see these, but would express these emotions even if they had never seen it before. So the list is fear, disgust, surprise, happiness, anger, contempt, sadness, and sadness. There you go. There's your 7. So, it's just this idea that universally, it doesn't matter where you go, what's, sort of backwater, country area you're in, people will express those different facial features the exact same way. Okay, so last thing for today is the general adaptation syndrome. This is just dealing with stress. It's just something that we have to tackle before we're done. So GAS, general adaptation syndrome, put together by a gentleman by the name of Hans Selye. So Hans Selye was looking at what is the progression, how does it look when we get stressed. And so he created this graph, as you can see before, and he broke it down into 3 stages. So first we have the alarm stage. This is where our body gets ramped up, it gets ready to fight. The immune system gets jacked up, adrenaline might start pumping in our veins, and we get ready for some sort of fight or flight response. We're getting ready for some sort of battle. And then during the resistance stage, this is when we are supposed to be fighting. This is supposed to be when we are, dealing with the stress, dealing with the problem that is at hand. And then once that period of time is over, we get into the exhaustion stage, because our body's been ramped up and ready to go. There needs to be a period where we get to rest and relax. And so what Hans Selye found is that one of the major issues for human beings is that in our lives, we find lots of things very stressful. And so what's happening is our body is constantly gearing itself up to fight and then staying in that resistance stage for a long period of time as we are constantly having to work through things. And so people can get sick, people can become very miserable, because what has happened is their body is constantly having to gear up and get ready for a fight. And so our body is constantly being exhausted, and it's just not good for us. And oftentimes, as I said, people can get really sick as their immune system is totally shot after having to be on the defensive for such long periods of time. Okay, so that'll do it for me today. Thank you very much for hopping on, guys. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later.